Here's something nobody says out loud, but almost everyone feels. You're doing everything right. You have a job. You pay your bills. Maybe you even have a little saved up. And yet, something feels off. Like no matter how hard you work, you never actually get ahead. Like the life your parents described, the house, the stability, the comfortable retirement, is somehow further away now than it was 5 years ago, even though you're earning more than you ever have. You're not imagining it, and you're not failing. What's actually happening is something economists have been quietly tracking for decades, and the data, when you see it laid out, is genuinely shocking. The middle class, the thing that was supposed to be the backbone of American life, is shrinking. Fast. And today, we're going to find out exactly where you stand inside that shift, because the answer might completely change how you think about your financial future. So, let's start with a number that should stop you cold. In 1971, 61% of American adults lived in middle-class households. Today, that number is 51%. That's a 10 percentage point drop over 50 years. And the pace is accelerating. In just the last 2 decades, the middle class has shed more ground than it did in the previous 3 decades combined. Now, here's the part that gets genuinely strange. And this is the question I want you to hold in your head for the next few minutes. Where did all those people go? Because when a class shrinks, people don't just disappear. They move somewhere. Some go up, some go down. And the direction the data shows is not the one most people expect. Think of it like a river that used to flow wide and steady. The middle was deep, reliable, the place most people swam, but something changed the terrain. And now that wide river is splitting into 2 narrow streams, one flowing upward, one flowing down, with a dry, exposed sandbar in the middle where the water used to be. That sandbar is what we used to call the middle class. Before we go further, we need to answer a question most people skip entirely. What actually is the middle class? Because if you don't know the definition, you can't know if you're in it. Pew Research Center, which tracks this more rigorously than almost anyone, defines a middle-class household as one earning between 2/3 and double the national median income, adjusted for household size and cost of living where you live. Right now, for a single adult, that range is roughly $30,000 to $90,000 per year. For a family of 4, it's approximately $60,000 to $180,000. Take a second. Do the math on your own household. Where do you land? Here's where it gets interesting. That range is wildly different depending on where you live. A $70,000 income in rural Mississippi puts you solidly upper middle class. That same $70,000 in San Francisco or New York City. You're technically lower middle by Pew's cost-adjusted definition, which means your class isn't just about your paycheck. It's about the gap between what you earn and what it costs to live the life your class is supposed to provide. And that gap has been quietly widening for 30 years. So, why is this happening? There are 3 forces driving the middle-class compression, and understanding all 3 changes how you think about your own financial decisions. Force 1. Wages grew, but the cost of the middle-class life grew faster. Since 1990, median household income has increased by about 180%. Sounds decent, but over the same period, home prices rose 400%. College tuition rose over 600%. Healthcare costs rose more than 700%. It's like getting a raise every year, but your rent goes up twice as fast. You're running, but the finish line keeps moving. The income went up. The cost of what that income was supposed to buy went up much more. Force 2. Wealth replaced income as the dividing line. This one is subtle, but critical. For most of the 20th century, a good income was enough to live a middle-class life. Today, Federal Reserve System data shows that the top 10% of households own 67% of all wealth in the country. The bottom 50% own just 2.5%, which means what separates financial comfort from financial stress increasingly isn't how much you earn, it's what you already own. The person who bought a house in 2019 and the person who didn't aren't just in different financial situations. They're on different economic planets, same job, same salary, completely different trajectories. Force 3, the middle-class toolkit stopped working. Your parents had a simple formula. Get a stable job, buy a house, save in a pension, retire at 65. Each piece of that formula built on the last. It was a ladder, and if you showed up and worked hard, you climbed it. Today, defined benefit pensions covered less than 15% of private sector workers, down from 62% in 1983. Home ownership for adults under 35 has fallen to 38%, near a 40-year low. And student debt, the ticket you bought to access the good jobs, now averages $37,000 per borrower. The ladder didn't just get harder to climb, several of the rungs have been removed. Let me show you what all of this actually looks like in a real life, because numbers on a chart don't convey what this feels like to live through. Meet Jordan, 34 years old, works in marketing at a mid-sized company, makes $72,000 a year, which is above the national median. By every traditional measure, Jordan is doing fine. But here's Jordan's month. Take-home pay after taxes, around $4,400. Rent in a modest two-bedroom, $1,750. Student loans, $380. Car payment and insurance, $520. Groceries, utilities, phone, subscriptions, another $700. That's $3,350 out the door before Jordan buys a coffee or saves $1. Jordan has $1,050 left, which sounds like something, until you remember that number has to cover clothing, medical co-pays, car maintenance, social life, birthday presents, anything unexpected, and retirement savings that every financial expert says should be at least 15% of income, which for Jordan is $660 a month. Do the math. Jordan is $610 short every single month if they try to save what they're supposed to. And Jordan isn't reckless. Jordan doesn't take European vacations or buy designer clothes. Jordan is just a person trying to live a normal life in 2026 on an above-average income. And the math doesn't work. Jordan is not alone. A 2024 survey found that 62% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck, including 36% of households earning over $100,000 per year. Read that again. Over a third of six-figure earners are one bad month away from real financial stress. That is not a personal failure. That is a structural condition. So, let's come back to the question I asked at the beginning. Where did the middle class go? Because it shrank by 10 points. And the data now tells us exactly where those people landed. Between 2000 and today, about 4% of adults moved UPI, into upper middle or upper income tiers, but about 6% moved down, into lower income households. The class isn't evaporating equally in both directions. It's hollowing out from the bottom more than the top, and the dividing line between those two trajectories isn't intelligence. It isn't work ethic. Research from the Brookings Institution shows it comes down to three things. Whether you own assets that appreciate, whether you have access to employer-matched retirement accounts, and whether your income has any path for growth beyond inflation, it's the difference between money that earns while you sleep and money that only shows up when you work. One compounds, one doesn't, and in an economy where asset prices have grown 5 times faster than wages over the last 20 years, which one you have matters more than almost anything else. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. If you've been feeling like something is off, like the financial rules your parents followed don't seem to apply anymore, you're right. They don't. The game changed, and nobody sent a memo. But here's the thing about understanding a broken system. Once you see the mechanism, you can stop fighting the old rules and start playing by the new ones. The new rules look like this. Own assets, even small ones, as early as possible, because appreciation works on a percentage, not a dollar amount, and time is the variable that matters most. Max every employer match before anything else. That's an instant 50 to 100% return that no investment can touch. And think about income as a ceiling, not a floor. The people exiting the middle class upward are overwhelmingly the ones who found ways to grow their earnings, not just preserve them. Picture this. You, 5 years from now, not grinding harder, but aligned differently. You own a small index fund portfolio that grows whether you're working or sleeping. You've got 3 months of expenses saved. So, The next unexpected bill is an inconvenience, not a crisis. You've stopped wondering if you're behind, because you know exactly where you stand and exactly what you're building toward. That's not a fantasy. That's the compound effect of a handful of correct decisions made early enough to matter. The middle class is shrinking, but the people who understand why have a clear path to make sure they're moving in the right direction. Now you do too. Drop a like if this shifted something for you. And if you're wondering how much money you actually need to make this year just to feel financially normal in America, I made an entire video breaking that down. It's right here. And hey, if you like these kinds of breakdowns, make sure to hit that subscribe button. See you there.